The following video is in part inspired by a video of the same name by Planet Clue, a phenomenal creator who's created some of my favorite content on the entire platform. All footage, opinions, and contents are my own, but the credit for the title and initial inspiration come from him. A creator whose content I simply cannot recommend enough. Nice. The Nintendo Wii used to do this really cool thing. Turn on the system, pop in a game, open the disc channel, wait for the disc to load, and then...
Super Mario Galaxy! Mario Kart Wii! Woohoo!
Resident Evil 4.
Trying to play any game would provide you with a splash screen, a sort of preliminary title sequence that plays before you even boot the actual game. A sting of music, a flash of light, a bit of original animation not found anywhere else in the entire game, and most importantly, the title of whatever game you were about to play. It served as a bit of an appetizer, a taste of whatever experience you were about to have, uniquely tailored to every game, and rarely, if ever, reusing any content found anywhere else in that game. This was a unique opportunity for a game to show off its personality well before you even got the chance to play it, and a way to reintroduce you to your favorite games every time you return to them. And this would happen with every game. Not just the first-party titles, not just the big-name third parties, not just the most prestigious additions to the console library, every single game. Club Penguin Game Day, Active Life Outdoor Challenge, Bakugan Battle Brawlers, and it was very cool. These splash screens weren't anything particularly crazy. A lot of them weren't even fun to look at. They didn't add anything to the actual gameplay. They were in no way a necessary part of any game, but they were a unique part of the Wii experience. Something that helped the system come alive, that made it feel like it had a soul. It helped sell the concept of a game as an experience you were stepping into instead of just another toy you were playing with. It was, intentionally or not, an attempt to elevate every game you played to a little more than just another game. Which does seem like a bit much for a system where the vast majority of the library is shit like this, but it was still very cool. And now that society has moved on from the Wii, rendering its entire library and all of its little quirks completely obsolete, I can't help but miss little things like this. And also the Weather Channel. Let's bring back the Weather Channel. The 3DS had sort of a similar feature. Please excuse my lack of capture card. PEMLAC, if you will. Every cartridge you insert features a little 3D model that pops up on the top screen of the home menu. Tomodachi Life gets a little island, Nintendogs gets a little dog, Animal Crossing also gets a little dog. Some of these are definitely more interesting than others, but it's always fun to see what little bonus each game comes with. And much like with the Wii, it's not just the big name 3DS games either. eShop titles, virtual console games, even the random-ass packing applications get a little something. We got any AR card fans in the chat? No? None? You don't exist? Fuck. In fact, every app gets its own little model, even the settings. Now that gets me excited to connect to the internet. Damn it. It was a very creative way to sell the 3DS's unique 3D capabilities, but it didn't stop with 3DS exclusive software. Every single backwards compatible Nintendo DS game got a little model too. They're nothing too crazy, just a little box meant to resemble the physical cartridge, nowhere near as in-depth or hyper-customized as the models for the 3DS originals, but it's still kind of exciting. Genuinely, how did they even pull this off? They didn't know that the 3DS was going to exist when they were coding these things. So what kind of insane black magic did they have to use to give every single original DS game a 3D model exclusive to the 3DS? There is no world where they were thinking this far ahead when they were working on Picross 3D. They're not exciting of an experience as your average Wii splash screen M&M's kart racing be damned, but it's a cute little feature that's fun to see, and as small of a detail as it may be, it still adds one more thing to be excited about every time you get a new 3DS game. But you know what system attempted something kind of similar? The Sega Dreamcast. This is a PS1. The 6th generation of consoles was the birth of a lot of new ideas that would later become industry standard. Online multiplayer, dedicated operating systems, home menus coded directly into the console. I mean, the PS2 had a fucking DVD player. This was the generation where console manufacturers wanted their systems to be more than just the box you play your games on. They wanted them to be unique, have a personality, stand out from one another, and be an indispensable part of the home entertainment ecosystem. The PS2 was dark and futuristic, the Xbox was green and alien, the GameCube did this. And the Dreamcast could play CDs, had a web browser, was the first home console to support true online multiplayer. It nearly killed an entire company, and most importantly, it had these tiny little memory cards called VMUs, visual memory units, that you would slot into the controller and it would show you a little picture. Nothing too crazy, usually just the game's logo, but every once in a while you might get something a little special. Like Sonic Adventure put a little chow in my controller. Don't worry, little buddy, we're gonna get you out of there! But that wasn't all it did. Certain games, when saved to a VMU, would include with their save data little mini games that you could play directly on the memory card. They're not the most complicated games in the world, and not every Dreamcast game came with one, but they're a neat little addition and one of the coolest parts of gaming history. I mean, I love the Nintendo Wii's cute little splash screens, but they just do not compare to straight up giving you an extra game to play on what is essentially a portable handheld. I mean, it's also arguably the worst one on the market, but it's also the only one where all of the games are basically free. This is such a fun way to reward players for the simple act of playing your games, and I'd like to imagine that if Sega hadn't, nearly gone out of business and been forced to exit the console market entirely, they would have continued to find new and exciting ways to reward fans for just being fans. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, so let's talk PlayStation. The PSP and the PS3 were the first Sony systems to feature unique boot-up bonuses for individual games, and both systems use the same very cool method. Anytime you pop in a game, the entire home screen changes to match, essentially giving each game their own unique home menu theme, as long as you didn't try to look at anything else. Both systems, of course, had a seemingly endless roster of themes that you could purchase and set as your permanent background, but as long as you were preparing to boot up a specific game, you were treated to a home screen dedicated to that game. And some of these themes were pretty cool. Little Big Planet, Project Diva, Trails in the Sky, a fourth example, and if you were really lucky, you might even get a cute little trailer for whatever game you were about to play, which is just so wonderfully unnecessary. It's like, hey dude, I already bought this game. You don't need to convince me. Wait, Nathan Drake is in this? And if you were even more lucky, that trailer might even come with a bit of music from the game, which really sets the ambiance. Why didn't every game do this? Actually, better question, why did Extend Every Extra only have the trailer and no music or menu theme? What's that about? And speaking of questions I'll never get an answer to, why do so many of the PS3's game themes look cheaper than the ones on PSP? I mean, don't get me wrong, the PSP isn't all winners, but despite it being a much more powerful system that Sony seemed to care way more about, the PS3 start screens are much lower quality. So many of them are just reused art that don't really fit the PS3's menu aesthetic and have had the game's title lazily superimposed on top of them. And a lot of these games can't even get that right. But all in all, it's a fun idea, and when the people in charge of designing these themes put in the effort, you can get something really cool. And I mean, if you want to talk about making every new game you play feel like an event, changing the look of the entire home screen is not a bad place to start. Which kind of begs the question, why did the PS4 completely abandon this idea? Okay, I'll admit it. I'm exaggerating again. The PS4 didn't abandon the concept entirely. It just changed the way that it works. Scrolling through individual games doesn't change the theme anymore. Instead, you set one permanent theme for your entire home menu, and the individual per-game themes have been relegated to each game's own dedicated newsfeed. Hit down on the D-pad and you'll be treated to trophy statistics, shared videos, a friend tab if any of your friends play the game, and of course, a quick link to the PlayStation Store just in case you ever thought you could spend even a single second not buying something. And it's all themed around whatever game you're about to play. That is, of course, assuming that the developers actually gave a shit about the PlayStation newsfeed. And a surprisingly high number really didn't. And I'm not just talking about small team, low budget, single person indie devs. I'm talking big names. Epic Games, Arc System Works, a third example. These feel like kind of shocking omissions until you realize that you also didn't really give a shit about the PlayStation newsfeed. But that's not all this generation gave us. The PS4 and the Wii U, I guess, and also probably the Xbox One, but I wouldn't know, I never owned the console, had these neat little boot screens featuring original art meant to bridge the gap between starting a game and the game actually starting. They're nothing too crazy, and you're rarely going to be looking at any of them for very long, even with the Wii U's infamously long load times. But they do a good job of making one of the worst parts of the gaming experience much more bearable. And while they aren't the flashiest things in the world, they still serve the purpose of easing you into whatever game you're about to play, and really, that's all I've ever been asking for. And also, oddly enough, a lot of PS4 games, dare I say most of them, used the same image for both their startup screen and their newsfeed, which kind of begs the question, why were there any games at all that didn't have a custom newsfeed? All you needed to do was submit the same picture a second time. The PS5 combined the best of both worlds. It brought back the loading screens from the PS4, which I'm not going to complain about. I mean, after something like this has already been introduced, you'd have to be insane to release a system without it. You'd have to be insane. But much more excitingly, the console also reintroduced the dedicated themes from the PS3 with a massive increase in the production value. Every game has its own unique theme. Scroll through your home menu and you'll be treated to a wide variety of distinct and expressive home menus, each tailor-made for every game you own. And I really mean every game. I have yet to play a single game, PS5 original or backwards compatible PS4 game, that doesn't give you a little something something. Astrobot, Fortnite, Sonic Generations, Final Fantasy 16, fucking Marvel Rivals. Even the games that didn't put in the effort on the PS4 are showing up here. It's practically mandatory. And of course, the indies, like always, are showing up in a big way. And that's not even the coolest part. On top of getting a complete visual overhaul in comparison to their PS3 counterparts, every theme also comes with its own unique music. And some of these songs are beautiful. Ghost of Tsushima, Metaphor Refantasio, a third example. Genuinely, where has custom game-by-game home menu music been my entire life? This is so much more than just a background for the home menu. So many of these themes feel like a celebration of the games themselves. I mean, some of these studios are definitely still phoning it in, looking at you, Arc System Works. But so many of these themes are so interesting, so exciting, so full of personality that I can almost forgive Sony for completely abandoning dedicated console themes in favor of doing things on a game-by-game basis. So with Sony doing all that, what's Nintendo been up to? I mean, between the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, this company has sort of developed a reputation for designing consoles that, for all their flaws, are just overflowing with personality, creativity, and optional features that help turn each system from just another box in my living room into a truly special experience. So what have they been up to on the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2? Fucking nothing. No dedicated themes, no boot screen, no 3D model, nothing. You want a theme? Okay, we've got black and we've got white. Default and night mode. Nothing else. Not even alternative colors. Gotta switch 1, gotta switch 2. Can't make it red, can't make it blue. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. Black fish, blue fish, old fish, new fish. This one has a little star. This one has a little car. Say, what a lot of fish there are. Nothing but topical references on this godforsaken YouTube channel. And when you do actually start a game, nothing. Black screen, Nintendo logo, loading symbol, and that's it. No cute little animation, no colorful loading screen, just a black void and your own reflection. Jump scare. And some of these load times are long. Have you tried playing Smash Ultimate? Any second now. Any second now. Any second now. It's ridiculous. The Wii U had long loading times, but even then, we got something for our trouble. Here, no. Sit in silence and think about your financial decisions. It's miserable. Well, actually, it's fine. This kind of thing doesn't actually matter at all, but I still don't like it. Leave it to a Nintendo fan to repeatedly blow $60 on mediocre half-finished games, only to exclusively complain about them all missing one single loading screen. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is a saving grace. All Switch 1 games came in these clear plastic cases. When you open them up, you can see straight through to the back of the box art. Some, probably most, use this space for things like warranty information and ESRB rating explanations, but others, primarily first-party titles and indies, use this space for custom artwork. When you buy a new Nintendo game, rip off that shrink wrap, open that case, there's a decent chance that you're going to be greeted with vibrant, stunning artwork tailor-made for whatever game you're about to play. Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Pokemon, Sonic the Hedgehog, Dragon Quest, at least in Japan. Even the indie games are getting in on this. Hades, Celeste, Amori, Undertale, and Stardew Valley. Of course, not every company participates. I've never seen a Namdai Bamco or Capcom game with interior box art, which is kind of crazy, because if any company was gonna participate, you'd think it would be Capcom. And then Sega can be pretty hit or miss. Why does Sonic Superstars have a reversible cover but not forces or colors? Why does Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania have traditional interior box art but Samba de Amigo is completely blank? They're both monkey games! And then Square Enix has a similar problem. Why does my copy of Live Alive, I know how it's actually pronounced, but that pronunciation sucks ass, have this gorgeous interior box art, but my copy of Neo The World Ends With You is completely blank? Is it because this is the Japanese version? Someone should probably tell my copy of Hatsune Miku Fitness Boxing. And even when a game does have interior box art, they vary wildly in quality. Some games get really cool official art that seems just perfect for the game you're about to play. Other games get weirder things like world maps or character portraits, and some of these games look more like loading screens than anything else. Hell, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe gets a fucking tutorial for some reason, like you couldn't figure out how to play the game just from playing it. And then, some games just get reversible cover art, which is my personal least favorite. But hey, it's still better than nothing. And speaking of better than nothing, the Nintendo Switch 2. The Switch 2 traded in the Switch 1's transparent cases for these redder, more translucent boxes. They look cheaper, they feel cheaper, and I'm the only person on the planet that actually prefers them. At least until I actually open them. Because while the Switch 1's interior box arts did make a return with some of their best artwork yet, it's kind of undercut by the fact that you can't fucking see it. The cases are just too red. The opacity has been cranked up too high. You can kind of make out the pictures, but if you really want to get a good look, you kind of have to slide the box art out altogether. Which is inconvenient, but also, how much time were you gonna spend looking at this to begin with? Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a downgrade, but not one that most people are going to notice or care about. I mean, I care, but I'm also medically ineligible to vote on account of my brain not working good. Funnily enough, the PSP, the PS3, and the PS4
and the PS5. I don't know why I didn't say PS5. I recorded footage of PS5 game cases. I don't know why I didn't say the PS5.
also had interior box art. I didn't bring it up earlier because the menu themes were obviously the bigger deal, but they did have them, and a lot of the art is actually better than anything on the Switch 1 or 2. It's easy to forget because they're usually blocked by the disc and manual. Remember manuals? But they were there. Sony did it first. All of it. Right down to their Player's Choice releases having the exact same problem as the Switch 2 with the exact same color plastic. How could we possibly have made this mistake twice? So what's the point? I know I've been talking them up a lot, but I get that none of these things actually matter. These kinds of extra features, the splash screens, the loading screens, the VMUs, the home menu themes, and even the interior box arts aren't necessary in any way. They don't add to the games or improve their gameplay. They don't act as an extra selling point stuffed into an already overly bloated reveal trailer. They're not even factored into the price of purchase. They don't actually do anything. And for the most part, people don't even notice that they're there. Except for the Wii and Dreamcast stuff, people still talk about those all the time. The point is, they're not mandatory, they're not necessary, they're not profitable in any way, and yet so many consoles have included them anyway. Hell, video game companies have been including these little bonuses from the first moment the hardware allowed them to. It makes zero sense, but I'm still really glad that they did it. These bonus features, this extra content, these little rewards for simply playing the game, elevate the experience, celebrate the games. They take these products that I love and make me feel like someone else cares about them too. They're unsung and frankly unimportant. But when you care about this stupid nerd bullshit as much as I do, it's hard not to love the little things. The things that don't have to be there but get included anyway. The things that make these mass-produced products from these billion-dollar corporations feel like they have a little bit of soul. Like the art and experience still matters despite the profit margins. And just in case the length of the video hasn't made it glaringly obvious, I always notice when they're there, and I sure as hell notice when they're not.